Hello, I'm Dr Jodi Richardson, and you're listening to Well, Hello Anxiety, a podcast where we end the struggle with anxiety and build our toolkit of practical skills to thrive. Hello, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the podcast. Today I'm talking about finding the right fit psychologist, and I often liken it to trying on a pair of jeans and finding the right fit. A good fit is everything, and sometimes it takes trying on a few pairs to find the fit that is perfect for you. So you see where I am going with this. I'd like to share with you a little about my own therapeutic journey and whether or not you are working with a counsellor, whether or not you are working with a psychologist, the style of therapy. There are more than 50 different therapeutic approaches. There are many therapeutic approaches that psychologists and counsellors can work with. So it's not only the approach, but it's the relationship with the therapist that is extremely important. A good relationship is essential to helping us as clients really connect with the person that we're working with, to stay in therapy, and to get the very best results that we can from the time that we're spending with the person who's working with us. And so it is important. And I'm not overlooking the fact that it can be very hard for some people to get in with any psychologist, but I did just want to raise the notion that the right fit is important. And if you are working with someone and it's not feeling like the right fit, it doesn't mean therapy isn't for you. It might mean taking some time to find another alternative. And it may take longer than you'd like, but it's really worth persevering. From my own perspective, I remember the first psychologist that I was referred to was the psychologist that worked in the same medical clinic as my GP. It was my first experience of working with a professional in this regard, aside from one appointment I'd had as a child when I was struggling with intrusive thoughts, and that was an absolute disaster. However, as an adult, me seeking help for myself, taking myself along to an appointment, I distinctly remember the room, the setting, feeling really vulnerable. It's difficult to share what's been happening in your life and what you've been experiencing with a new person, but we do so because we're really seeking help, and we know that by doing so and really engaging with somebody who's professionally trained to support us, that they can help us on our journey to healing. In a series of appointments I had with this particular person, one of the things that I was asked to do very early in the therapy was to role play myself at different ages. And I found that to be extremely confronting. It, in my mind, looking back, it was a little soon for something like that. And it was not an experience that was enjoyable for me. In fact, I really actually just wanted to run out of the room. But I stayed and I persevered with those particular sessions for on a handful of occasions, and then decided really and truly that just wasn't the right approach for me. It felt like it was creating more anxiety than it was helping. I remember talking with some colleagues, some close colleagues and friends in my workplace, and somebody recommending to me somebody that they'd found to be really helpful that they'd worked with. And so I made an appointment to go and see another person, another therapist, and found myself in her clinic having a conversation where she was analysing a dream that I'd had. And in that moment, when she started going down this pathway, because I was unaware of the style of therapy that I was entering into, I was really green. I was really depressed. I wanted help. And I was taking whatever people suggested as an opportunity to get the help that I needed. And what I would do differently now, and what I really want to share with you are my experiences so that you can benefit from that, is that having a good understanding of what type of therapeutic approaches are available and what you think might work best for you. And you can have that conversation with your GP. You can also have that conversation with the therapist when you begin undertaking the work. But after going along to one of these appointments and having this conversation around the dream that I'd had and how she was interpreting the dream, I really, again, my instincts just said, no, this is not the right approach for me either. I just feel really uncomfortable and I just can't see this being helpful for me. And I was very lucky to be referred by another colleague to another person who I ended up spending many, many hours with over the ensuing, I think, 10 to 15 years. So he was absolutely the right fit for me. We developed a therapeutic relationship that was something that was very healing for me, and the style of therapy that I was engaging in was really helpful. And so I felt very grateful, very lucky to have been connected with the right person, third time lucky. Incidentally, my colleague, when she referred me to my psychologist who's now retired, his name's Alec, she said to me, be mindful that some clients do move on from a therapist because things might be getting a little bit challenging in therapy, because therapy can be challenging. We are asked to share, to be vulnerable, and we can do so on our own terms, of course, but it's helpful if we can be open and honest about how we're feeling, what we're thinking, and that for some, she said to me, she was a therapist herself, for some, when it gets a little too challenging, they might move on to someone else. So she said, just be prepared to answer a couple of questions about how it is that you found yourself in a position that you've been seeking multiple therapists. And so I don't recall that conversation coming up, but it was some awareness that I had, and I wanted to share that with you as well. So it's important to find the right fit psychologist because the therapeutic relationship is essential to the outcome of the therapy. It's like any relationship. If you don't get along, it's not going to work well for you, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a collegial relationship. The therapeutic relationship needs to be something that you feel comfortable with. There needs to be a mutual respect and obviously trust as well. We also know that here in Australia, we do need a referral to a psychologist. And so if your GP has written a referral for you to see one person and it doesn't feel like it's the right fit, then return to your GP and ask for a new referral. And often a really great way to find someone who might work for you is to ask around. Use your networks to ask around and to seek recommendations, because people will be happy to share if they've been able to see someone locally that has been really helpful for them and their family. I'm going to share some extra points to keep in mind when finding a good fit psychologist. I've already talked at length about the bond and how important that is. And I wanted to just affirm too that that's equally important if you're taking a child to see a psychologist, that relationship between the child and the psychologist is one of trust and respect and comfortability, is equally important whether it's a child attending the appointments or whether or not they're appointments for you. A good psychologist also recognises you or your child as a whole person and not just a product of symptoms. So they see where the symptoms fit and affect you in your whole life outside of the time that they spend with you in the clinic. A good psychologist also ensures that somebody attending an appointment or a series of appointments has extra support outside of the appointment times. And so for a child, that could be a parent. For you, that could be a partner. It could be a sister. It could be a friend. Also, what we know is when it comes to a good psychologist, they know that it is the social supports around the person that contribute in a very large part to the healing of the person who is seeking the help. So it is important that they understand where you are in your social circles and who beyond those immediately close to you are going to really help you as you move forward. A good psychologist also understands the complexity of mental health challenges and that they're not necessarily always going to be attributed to just one cause. And equally, they'll take into account any cultural needs and really, again, just demonstrating that willingness to work with you or your child as a whole person. So one of the things that I talk about when talking to people about getting extra support for anxiety or any mental health challenge is about getting your A team together. So for me, my A team when I was going through clinical depression were my GP, my psychologist, my parents, and Peter as my partner. For a child, that might be one or both parents. It could be a psychologist. It could be a teacher. It's about getting the people around you or somebody that you love that will really be able to help support them or yourself through this healing journey. And again, just to reiterate, if it doesn't feel like the right fit, it's okay to go back to your GP, ask for a new referral. It might be a long road, but it is important that that relationship is a trusted and strong relationship and that you feel as though it's a good connection in order for the therapy to be helpful. So as I said earlier, the relationship maintains the connection, which means it maintains the therapy, which means it maintains the help, and it enables the person to get the most out of therapy. What I did with my psychologist was I attended weekly appointments for a long period of time. And then as I was healing and I was coping better and I had better tools in my toolkit, then I'd spread it out to fortnightly. Eventually I spread it out to monthly. But there were times in my life, like when I had each of the children, that I needed to go back and revisit more regular appointments. And that's okay. It's a fluid relationship. And if you've found the right person and you can dip in and dip out as you need, once you are really on the path to healing. But at the start, it's really helpful if you can commit to regular appointments as often as they are available for you, because again, I know for some people that is a bit of a challenge. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that this particular episode helps you to make good decisions about where you're at or where a loved one's at with their therapy. And don't hesitate to seek help. There's so much that can be gained from talking with a professional when you are struggling with life circumstances or your mental health. I highly recommend it. It's been absolutely life-changing for me. So I shall sign off and I will very much look forward to seeing you. Well, I won't see you, will I? We won't see each other, but I'll be back with you again next week. Okay, take care. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave a review. To keep the conversation going, I'd love you to join me over on Instagram. You'll find me at Dr Jodi Richardson. Also, if you'd like a copy of my free 5-day mini email course, Calm Your Anxious Brain, then jump over to my website, drjodirichardson.com, and you can sign up down the bottom. I've really enjoyed having your company. Thanks so much. See you next time.